that this is a very broad subject, and every single person expresses their idea of their internal thoughts differently. Am I correct with that?
Yes, and let me give you one example of that. So if you ask about the word thinking, and you ask, well, what are you thinking about right now? That seems like a very straightforward thing. Everybody should know exactly what thinking means, and they can give a definite. Everybody could give a definition of thinking, which is pretty much like what Webster would give. But if you listen to people's reports about their inner experience at the moment of the beep, one person is going to say, so the person says something like this. Well, at the moment of the beep, I was thinking about whether I should have a hot dog or a hamburger, and 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 then you ask for what the details of that, and they will say, well, I was speaking in an internal monologue, quote, should I have a hot dog or a hamburger, unquote. And somebody else will say, I was thinking about whether I should have a hot dog or a hamburger. And that person will have a visual experience of a hot dog and a hamburger side by side with no words whatsoever. And another person will say, well, I was thinking about whether I should have a hot dog or a hamburger. And that person will be tasting mustard and have no words and no pictures or whatever. And another person will say, I was thinking about whether I should have a hot dog or a hamburger. And that person will be feeling anxious because they can afford a hot dog, but they can't afford a hamburger.
So how many different ways have you seen people express their thoughts? Is it endless, or are there like maybe major groups specifically? So like some people are visual thinkers, some people are monologue thinkers, or is it just everyone experiences it differently?
Well, that's
I know
a
huge question.
that's a very complicated question. So thinking, first off, we have to make a clear distinction between the experience of thinking and some other kind of thinking. So there's a lot of kind of thinking that goes on underneath experience, what you might call unconsciously or whatever. That's a pretty bad word too, but outside of direct experience. And we don't know anything about that, or I don't know anything about that. What I would say is that maybe the most direct answer is that we divide the world up into the world of thinking, the world of inner experience. There are five, shouldn't say we divide it up, so let me retract that. There are five frequent phenomena that we have discovered that are sometimes called thinking.
Okay.
And those five phenomena we call inner speaking. You would call it internal monologue, but probably mean the same thing. Inner speaking, inner seeing, that visualizing, seeing an image, seeing a visual image. Better to call it inner seeing, but that's a different story. Feelings, which is the experience of emotion, not just emotion, but the experience thereof. Sensory awareness, which is the noticing of a sensory characteristic, not because it's important in the situation, but because I happen to be noticing it. So while I'm talking to you, I'm drawn to the blue of your shirt, not because you've said anything about blue or because our conversation is about blue, but because when I'm looking at you on the screen, for whatever reason, I go blue. I'm drawn to blue. That's what we call sensory awareness.
Makes my eyes pop.
And then the last one is what we call unsymbolized thinking. Unsymbolized means I experience myself thinking, should I have a hot dog or a hamburger? But there is no symbol, whether that be words or imagery. So I'm experiencing myself as choosing between having a hot dog and a hamburger, and this is not an unconscious thing. It's directly right there. I'm making this choice. But there's no word hot dog and no visual image hot dog and no taste of mustard or hot dogs or whatever, and yet I'm thinking about it. So those are the five, what we would call five frequent phenomena. But it's not like the world falls into one of five categories.
Yeah.
There are
a lot of overlap, I'm assuming.
Right.